Let me share my screen again. Can you see my screen?
Yes, now it's
Yes.
visible. We are
Okay.
fine.
Okay. So we were talking about resources in our previous session. So resources is a basic building block. It is the smallest unit of data set. Um, if you look at one single resource, we will get some idea. But in order to get a full picture of a functional scenario, we would definitely need to combine one or more resources together and take a look at the entire data in all the resources to conclude a certain scenario, right? So we also understood that when we talk about resources, they will have individual data points, and these data points are arranged in a systematic structure, and that's how FHIR represents the data within each resource. And these elements can be broken down into multiple child elements if needed. Not all the elements are broken down, only few of them will be broken down into child elements as per the real-time data requirements. And then we wanted to understand what is the JSON structure, because that is the format that we will transmit the data in. So with respect to JSON structure, we did take a look at how we can create a JSON object, right? So we have a JSON object which will have flower braces. Within that, we'll be creating elements, right? You'll have each element has a key and a value pair. For example, name, and then we'll have the value. So whatever you are assigning to a key, it can vary based on the data that you have. Number one, you can assign a single value like this. Then you can also assign an array by using square braces if you want to, right? That is the second type of assignment that we have seen the other day. Then the third type of assignment is in case if you want to break down the object into more number of child elements, you can directly assign another JSON object to it and then have multiple child elements within that, right? You can separate each element from one another with the help of commas. Right, this is first element, this is second element within the element called name. We have a new object assigned. We have also seen that in case if we want to have multiple objects within a single element, we can do that as well by assigning an array. Right, within the array you can either give the object value or you can directly have values assigned within a array. Okay, so this is how you construct or read a JSON object. Then we started taking a look at FHIR specification page. So let's bring that up. So we went to this resources page, and here we have different views. You can use any of these views. We have a view called categorized view, where you have the base data, and then in the base data you have multiple resources. So this is more like associated with a functional scenario, so that we can understand them very clearly from workflow perspective. So in this, the first resource is patient itself. So when we talk about patient resource, we have a systematic dedicated page for each resource within this specification. So HL7 has done great work with this documentation, because earlier when we spoke about, or when we talk about other standards like HL7 V2, CDA and all, we don't have such dedicated documentation and a consolidated documentation which will tell us about examples, descriptions, mappings, and so on. This is really good, right? So for every resource page, you will have scope and usage, which will brief us about what this resource is all about, where you can use it, and then you have the second section, which is called as resource content. Within the resource content, you will clearly see what are the elements that are available within that resource. Okay, and we have few rules, few columns that we need to understand. We will go through that as well. But after the content, you will have something called as terminology bindings. We'll talk about terminology bindings down the line. Then you have few section called constraints, where you will have full set of constraints available, meaning rules that we need to abide by while building this resource. So those constraints are available here in the constraint section. Then you have few examples or few scenarios that are explained. Here with respect to patient resource, we are talking about duplicate patient records, how to manage them. We are also talking about what is the difference between patient versus person. And then we are also talking about contact versus related person, gender versus sex. So you have some scenarios explained so that we don't get confused while implement the interface for patient resource. Similarly, you also have a final section which is called as search parameters. Every resource will have this section which is search parameters. These search parameters are used to search patient resource when we actually create the patient resource on a happy FHIR repository server or any FHIR repository server. So that is the layout of any page, right? So now here we need to take a look at the section where we talk about the element structure. Okay, just give me 1 minute, guys. Hey, sorry about that. So let us look at the patient structure. So when we talk about the structure, we have individual elements. So we have elements like identifier, active, name, telecom. But the main thing here that we need to take a look at is icons that we have for each element. So when we talk about these elements, there are two kinds of data types that will come into picture when we talk about FHIR elements. One is simple data type, or you can call it as primitive data type. So what does this define? What does simple data type or primitive data type define is if an element is represented as a simple data type, then you will have single value assigned to it. Right? In the scenario where we have seen we have one single value assigned to the JSON object, right? But you also have another data type called as complex data type. So when we talk about complex data type, you have multiple objects with child elements assigned to it. Okay, that's the main difference between simple data type and complex data types. So when we talk about complex data type, you may have one single object or multiple object, but apparently you are going to have child elements for sure. This is the determining factor which will tell us whether it is going to be a single element or whether it is going to be an object with multiple child elements. Okay, how do we get to know which element is a single or which element has primitive data type and which element has complex data type? So there are two ways to determine that. Number one is to go ahead and look at the icon. If you have this hexagonal icon, that indicates that we are going to have multiple child elements for that particular element. That is the first step. Second, if you have a rectangular icon like this, that indicates that it is a primitive data type and it will have only one single value. Okay, so if we go through these list of elements which we have for patient object, we have identifier, we have active, we have name. We'll go through each element one by one. But as you can see, icons keep on changing based on the element. So for gender, it is a single value. So we have primitive data type. But for telephone number or name of the patient, you can see that we have hexagon icon. There is another way of determining what is the data type. So you have a dedicated data type column. And this data type column will tell us what kind of data type is assigned to this particular element. And for all the complex data types, it will begin with a capital letter or an uppercase letter. Okay, that's how we can say whether it's a complex data type and which has multiple child elements, or whether it is a single primitive data type. Okay, so when we talk about complex elements, you will have multiple child elements. As you can see here, if you go to identifiers, within identifier you have multiple child elements. We'll come back to this one. So let us first understand what is the functional use of each of these elements. Few are self-explanatory, few might need explanation. Wherever we need explanation, we will go through the explanation for that. If it is self-explanatory, we will leave it. Okay. So identifier is the first element that we have in the patient resource. So when we talk about this identifier, what kind of identifiers are this? You can have patient's medical record number, you can have patient's passport number, driver's license number, social security number, or national identifier number. Any one of these can be represented under the identifier element. Okay, and this identifier element has the data type of complex data type, which means it can have more number of child elements. What are the possible child elements that we can have under this? You can just open that particular identifier. Once you open that identifier, here we can see what are the child elements that we have. So you have child elements like use, which will tell us whether it is an official identifier or a temporary identifier or secondary identifier, or is it an old identifier. Okay, then you have an element called value, which will tell us what is the actual value of the identifier. Then you have an element called system, which will tell us which particular system has created that value that we want to represent. So in this way, there will be multiple child elements present within a certain data type called identifier, and this identifier data type is associated to or assigned to identifier element within patient resource. Okay, now if we talk about an element called active, this active is going to represent whether patient resource is active or not. Okay, and the data type that is associated with this is Boolean data type. What is Boolean? Boolean data type will have only two values. Either it is true or false. Okay, so based on the patient's JSON structure, or based on the patient status, it might be an active patient record or it might be an inactive patient record. If it is inactive, we will have the value as false. If it is active, we will have the value as true. Okay, next you have patient name. So when we talk about patient name, it is pretty common, straightforward. You have a data type called human name. So let me open that up, and you can see that it is a complex data type. That way we can tell that it is going to have multiple child elements associated. So if you open up the data type for human name, you can see that we have multiple child elements. Use of that name, what kind of name it is. Is it a nickname? Is it an official name? Is it a casual name or usual name? Or is it an old name, or it's a mother's maiden name? So what kind of name it is represented with the help of use. Then you have text, which is just a general representation of the full name. Then you have family, which will tell us what's the family name. given, which will tell us the given name, then prefix, suffix, and period that name is valid for, right? So that is with name. In this way, you will have multiple elements. Now, by looking at this particular JSON element, looking at these structures, we need to go ahead and build our JSON object step by step. So we'll go ahead and do that. But before doing that, uh, we also need to understand that we have sample structures provided in these sections. So you have XML sample here. So this will tell us how the XML object should look like for this structure. Okay, and then you have JSON section, which will talk about the JSON sample structure. And then you have turtle, which will talk about or which will represent turtle sample structure. So as I said earlier, FHIR can be transmitted in 3 different formats: XML, JSON, and turtle. Okay, we are going to use JSON throughout our training because that's the most easiest one to understand and also lightweight to handle. And when we actually create records, we'll be using JSON format itself. Okay, so let us begin creating these resources with the help of these definitions that we have here. Okay, so before we move on, let's understand about the column called cardinality as well. We understood the data type column clearly. Let's understand about cardinality. Cardinality will tell us whether the element is a repeatable element or not. It can be expressed in pair format. The lower bracket, which is nothing but the minimum occurrences, will be represented as on the lower side, and the maximum number of occurrences is represented on the higher side. So usually whenever you talk about cardinality, this will be the representation. Let's say that certain element can repeat only 2 times, then you will have 0, 2. Here, when it is 0 and star, it means that minimum number of repetitions is specified as 0. If an element has minimum number of minimum number of occurrences as 0, it means that this element is optional, which means it is not required for you to always have this element in the patient resource structure. And on the maximum number of occurrences side, it has star. Star indicates that it can repeat any number of times. There is no limitation on the maximum number of occurrences side. If you look at the second element, which is active, it has the minimum occurrences as 0, maximum occurrences as 1. It means that this element is also optional. However, the upper bracket is closed, or upper bracket is limited. You can have this element only once. You cannot have repeatable information within this particular element. The data within this cannot be repeatable. Similarly, if you go with name, we can see that it's the cardinality is 0 to star, which means it's a repeatable element. The name can be repeatable. So that way, we rely on 2 main aspects when we are creating the JSON object. Number 1, cardinality. Number 2, data type. Cardinality will tell us whether we can use an array or not. Data type will tell us whether it's a single value or whether it is going to be a JSON object that is going to be assigned to a certain resource. So now let us go ahead and start creating a JSON object. By following the structure that they have provided, right? So let's begin. So in order to create a patient or JSON object, we know that we have to use flower braces. What is the first element that we have? We have first element as identifier. One thing to keep in mind is that JavaScript and JSON are case sensitive. If the object says that you have to use lowercase, you have to use lowercase only. For example, this element is not equal to this element. This is different. this is different. Another thing to keep in mind is that you cannot have same element names repeatedly within a JSON object. These two are same now, right? You cannot have a repeated element within a JSON object at the same level. You can have it at the secondary level, but you cannot have it at the same level. There should be only one element with that particular name. But if you start it with a capital letter, then the JavaScript or JSON will identify these two as a different objects or different elements altogether, because it is case sensitive. All right. So now when we talk about identifier, we started creating identifier element. Let us look at the cardinality. What does the cardinality say? Cardinality says it can be from 0 to star, right? Which means this particular element is a repeatable element. It's okay even if this element is not present in the final JSON structure that we are creating, because it says that the lower bracket or lower minimum occurrence is 0. And if it is 0, it means that the element is optional. We don't need to, it's not mandatory. So as the maximum cardinality says star, you can assign an array. The moment you see that the maximum cardinality is more than 1, immediately you have to assign an array, because array is used for multiple elements or multiple objects, right? That is the first step. Now next step is to create, we need to determine or decide whether I am going to assign values, single values here, or whether I am going to assign an object. So that is determined with the help of the data type. So what kind of data type we are looking at? With identifier, we are looking at a complex data type. So when we talk about complex data type, we know that we'll have multiple child elements within that, right? So we will create an object within that array. Now what should be the elements within that object? So we will open up that data type, and within that list of elements, we will start using those elements that are part of that particular data type. So for identifier data type, we have use type system value period assigner. These are the individual values that we have. So first let's write use. Now again, the individual child elements will have their own properties again. You can see that we have flags, cardinality, type, and description, same like the resource structure elements. Even the data types, if they are complex data types, they have their own individual properties. Now when we talk about use, this is optional, that is not a required element or not a mandatory element. And the upper bracket, the maximum occurrences is set to 1, which means it's not an array, it's a single value. And next, the data type is code, right? And it is a primitive data type, which means it is also a single value that has to be assigned to use. One quick tip here is that whenever you have code, then you will have list of possible values populated within the description section. Okay, in all scenarios wherever you have the data type as code, you will have the possible values specified here. You also have a table associated with it. That table will tell us what are the possible values that you can use. Here you can see that you have usual, official, temp, secondary, and old. Same values are present here at the top section for a quick view. But if you want to take a look at it, the actual table, you can click on the tables provided here in the description section. So whenever we talk about this data type called as code, you will have a table associated, and the values should come from that table only. So now here when we talk about use, we have usual name, official name, and so on. So I will just use as official for now. Okay, then let's leave type for now. We will talk about type later. We have a system called as a value called as system. So this will tell us which specific system has assigned the this particular patient ID. Let's say we are creating a patient MRN number, and the system that assigned the ID would be EHR system, ehr.com patient ID. Okay, that's a random URI that I shared. And then next we have value. So when we talk about value, again, let's look at cardinality. Cardinality says 0 to 1, and it is a string data type. It is also a primitive data type. So let's go ahead and directly assign the value. We can have a certain value created. This will be our first JSON object that we are creating with first element, right? So identifier object is constructed. Next element in the queue is active. So after identifier, you have to specify a comma and then provide an element called active. So now let us look at active's cardinality. It says 0 to 1, which means it's a non-repeatable element. If it is non-repeatable, we will not use an array. If it is repeatable, we will use an array, right? So it's a non-repeatable element, so we cannot go ahead and use an array. Next, let us look at the data type. It's a primitive data type, which means it's a single value that you will be assigning. The possible values for Boolean are true or false. Those are the only two values. Either you can use true or you can use false. We are creating an active patient record, so I will go ahead and specify it as true. Next element that we have in the queue is name, right? Now let us talk about name. What is the cardinality for name? It is 0 to star. It is a repeatable element because the maximum cardinality says star. So anything more than 1 in the maximum, for the maximum cardinality representation, you should always go ahead and create an array. So let's go ahead and create an array. Okay, now we need to check the data type. The data type is human name. It is a complex data type, right? So if it is complex data type, then we need to open and see what are the possible child elements that we have. So human name has all of these possible child elements. Let's go ahead and make note of each one of them one by one. So I am creating an object so that I can hold all the child elements within that object. First one is use. Again, what is the cardinality of use? We can see that it's 0 to 1, which means it's a non-repeatable element. And then we have the data type of code. You guys remember when I said that when we looked at identifier data type, as soon as we see the data type as code, there will be a table associated, and that table will have few list of values that we can use, and we have to use from that list of values only. So here name use is a table. If you scroll down, we have a table associated with it. This is called as value set or code system. We'll talk about these value sets and code system later. For now, just remember that there will be a table and the values will be present within that table. We have to use one of the values they have provided. So here we have various values. Let's go ahead and use one of them. Okay, so for patient's data type, I am creating an official patient name. So I'll provide that, and then I will go ahead and provide family name, right? And with family name, let's look at the cardinality again. Always we have to look at the cardinality and then the data type. So cardinality is 0 to 1, which means it's a non-repeatable element. So we don't need an array here. Then we will take a look at the data type. Data type is string. If the data type is string, it is a primitive data type, which means a single value which you can assign directly. So here I can say that this is my family name, right? And then next element that is in the queue is given. So here we are representing the given name. So what does given name say? Let's look at the cardinality. For given name, cardinality is 0 to star. Okay, so as we see star, we have to immediately assign an array. Now after that, let's look at the data type. to determine whether it's a single value like this that will be good, that will go in the array, or whether it's going to be an object like this that will be created in the array. So here the given name is a string, which means you have a string value which is a single value and it is a repeatable value, right? Usually in the given name what you specify is the actual given name of the patient, and then you will repeat some middle initial. Okay, that is why this is a repeatable element. So you have two repetitions, repetition number one, which is the actual given name, and the second one is the middle initial. Okay, and then you can add more number of elements, prefix, suffix, period, then look at the cardinality, then look at the data type. This is the common pattern that we will follow through across for all the patient records. All the elements as which are part of the patient records. Then we have gender, which is nothing but gender value. Then you have birth date. Then you have telecom, that is also pretty self-explanatory. Then we have address, marital status. Contact is basically going to represent the regular contact information of the patient. It can include emergency contact. It can include primary contacts in case of in case patient cannot make any decision, like next of kin. That information can be present in contact element. So we have now created one specific resource structure, right? So this is a simple patient resource structure. Now we can go ahead and post this resource structure to a publicly available FHIR server and create a patient record altogether. All right, let's go ahead and do that. So where to find a publicly available FHIR server? So I'll say FHIR training servers. Okay, so you can see that we have Happy FHIR test server. We can make use of that Happy FHIR test server. You can grab this base URL. Okay, and then open your tools. So we will be using either Postman or we can use Insomnia. Anything is fine. Okay, you can install either Postman or Insomnia as per your feasibility. Both are free to download and install. It says that what you're comfortable with. So I open Insomnia. So what you will do here is you will create a new request altogether. You will click on this plus sign and click on HTTP request. Once you click on HTTP request, just click on post and provide the URL here. And then as we are going to create patient, I have just added the patient to the base URL. Okay, we will talk about this URL structure as well in the upcoming sessions, how this is created, and then we will talk about various other aspects with URL string. But for now, just remember that it's a combination of base URL plus patient. Then you need to change the body to JSON and then copy paste our resource that we have created. This will fail. Let us see why it fails. Okay, we did not add something here. We will talk about that addition, why we need to add that and all later. But let's see the error. We need to add the resource type. Let's look at the error first. So now I can click on send. When I click on send, this will be sent to publicly available Happy FHIR server and it will try to process that record. So now, as I mentioned, the record did not process. We got an error. It says that failed to pass the request body, invalid JSON content detected, missing required element, which is nothing but resource type. So you have to go ahead and have a resource type element always in a JSON object. Without that, the server will not be able to determine what kind of resource you are posting to the server. If you do not have this, server will not be able to recognize whether this is a patient resource or whether this is a appointment resource or whether this is an encounter resource. It cannot identify, right? So that's why it asks you to make sure that resource type should be included always in the JSON objects. So now we got the very same error because we did not include the resource type. Let's go ahead and send it. So it's taking long time. It shouldn't take so much time. It just creates that it within 1 or 2 seconds. Okay, something. Okay, I think server was down for a second. So we can see here that we were able to send the data, and now it has gone ahead and created the patient resource for us. Okay, how can you tell that? It has created an ID that this patient resource is associated with, and it has also added few other additional elements apart from the data that you have sent. You have sent only this information, right? However, there are other additional elements which are added. We will see down the line why they are added and all, but we are able to successfully create a patient record. Don't worry about these things for now. All right. So now this is our first patient creation with minimal data set. All right. So in the next session, we will take a look at a little bit more complex data elements like marital structure, marital status, and we'll also talk more about contact element. If you look at the contact element, let me open up the browser. Yeah, if you go to the patient resource, we have few elements with a different icon, with a question mark icon, right? We'll talk about what is this and why is it used, or how is it used in fact. And then we will also talk about these elements where you have folders. What is the actual reason for having a folder? They are called as backbone elements. We will talk about backbone elements as well, and we will also go ahead and start creating the full resource in the next session. So the current assignment for you guys is to create the object with few elements, follow the rules of looking the cardinality first to determine whether an array has to be assigned or not, and then go ahead and look at the identifier, go ahead and look at the data type, and decide whether it's going to be an object or a single element. Okay. Okay. So that is how you go ahead and determine and start creating JSON objects. So it might look simple when we are doing it in the session, but when you actually hands-on create, if you are doing it for the first time, then you will get a lot of questions. So I would highly recommend, please go ahead and work through this assignment and then create the records. And once you are done with creating the records, you can send it to Dixon at datainterops.com. That's my email address. You can send it to that one. Okay. So any questions from anyone?
Hey, Dixon.
Hey, Prince.
Yeah, I joined late, right? And I'm looking at the Jackson that you created. And I see that you stopped at where it says given name. So, for example, if we were to add the patient address,
Mm-hmm.
so within this object, which is where do we start to do that? Are we?
So
I know you have name
after each element, you can separate them by adding comma, and then you start adding address here.
address. Okay, and every other element, just the same approach. Hello?
Hey, sorry.
I said we use the same approach to keep adding more elements, like for
Exactly.
example, the date of birth, etc. Right?
Exactly.
Okay,
You will look
gotcha.
at the cardinality to determine whether it's an array or not, and then you will look at the data type to determine whether it is a single value or an
Okay,
object.
got it.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone?
And then for the system one, we can just make it up, right? To anything.
You
Is that
can.
right?
You can. The URI system can be anything.
Okay,
There is no validation on that, so that is okay. But for
okay.
these elements where you have code as the data type, you have to use those elements only. For example, let me quickly show you something. If I say this one as, let's say, unofficial, right? If I
Mm-hmm.
send it, the server will shoot an error. So it will say that the invalid attribute value is used, which is unofficial, because it is not known for that data type. So wherever you have code, you have to ensure that you are picking the value, one of the values that is provided to you in the description section and that table.
So what do you see the official one for that one within this IG that you're looking at?
Yes. So for identifier is where I
Mm-hmm.
changed. If you go to identifier and look at the list of values, you have usual, official, temp,
Okay,
secondary, and old. Any one of these can be used, but
gotcha.
no other values apart from these. Okay. All right. Srinivas has shared his details, guys. We will continue with the sessions next week. The first 3 demo sessions are done with today. If you're planning to continue with the training, please reach out to Srinivas, get yourself enrolled, um, so that we can continue with the current batch from next Monday. Okay.
So how do we send in the exercise?
Sorry.
How do we send in the exercise, the resource, the patient resource that we're going to be creating? Do we send
You
it to
can,
you?
yes, you can send it to
Okay.
my email address, dixon@datainterops.com.
Okay. And do you have a way for us to download like the tool that you're using? The what is this? Insomnia? Do you have instruction on how we can do that? Or we just Google it? Or
Which one?
the tool that you're using to do the post?
Insomnia. Yes, you can download. You can just Google it. You can just type insomnia download.
Okay.
It will show you the download option.
Got it. How do they have Postman? Can that work as well?
Yes, absolutely. You can use either Postman or Insomnia. Anything is fine.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone else? Okay, great. So I think we are good here for today. We will continue next week. We'll continue taking a look at more details of patient structure. We'll talk about metadata elements, and then we will see what are the 4 different sections for each patient resource that we have. And then we will continue taking a look at other things like base resource and domain resources, which are conceptual aspects of adding more number of elements to each resource. All right, so that's what we'll continue taking a look at in the upcoming sessions. Thank you, everybody. You all have a good weekend. We'll catch up next week.
Hey, so, hey, would this video, would this recording be available right away, or it takes time for you guys to post it?
It takes time to process. After it is processed, I think it will take an hour or so. But once that is ready, Srinivas will go ahead and post it or upload it to the Google Drive. Maybe by the time you wake up tomorrow morning, you should have it.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Hey,
Hello.
Abdul.
Do we have class like tomorrow and day after tomorrow?
No, we don't. We don't. Next session is on Monday evening US time, Tuesday morning Indian time,
Okay.
at the same time.
Okay. So since coming Monday, it's going to be regular classes, right?
Regular classes, correct.
Got it. Thank you.
No problem.
Hey, Dixon.
Hey,
So
Maithili.
the entire FHIR is going to have the same JSON format and will be going through the same technicality, right?
Correct.
Just
Correct.
to be sure.
Initially, with patient, we will be creating full resource. I mean, we'll use various kinds of elements so that you can get an idea how to
Okay.
create them.
Okay.
Once we understand this, after that, we will be going through the structure, examples,
Okay.
but we won't be creating each one of them,
Got
each
it.
resource. I mean, it is redundant. Once you
Okay.
get an idea of how to create it, then that's the same approach with other elements, other resources as well. But when we start creating bundles,
Okay.
we will create a couple of more resource types so that you
Okay.
can get an idea of how to create a bundle, because bundle structure is little nested. So we need to create them and understand how to add it. So we will have some hands on there again.
Sure. Thank you, Dixon.
No problem.
The regular class. Thank you.
Hey, Dixon, I have a question.
Hey, Tosin. Yes, go ahead.
Hey, so my question is, after the training's for what, 2 months, right?
Right.
So are we gonna have like a lifetime access just in case like we want to go back and reference back and refresh and like kind of reiterate what we learned, or it's just a
To the
one after
recordings,
training? Yeah.
yeah, usually we have 6 months of access to the recordings. But if you need an extension, you can reach out to Srinivas by the end of fifth month or sixth, and Srinivas will extend it for another 3 months or so, 1 to 3 months, and so on. But it's not lifetime access because it consumes a lot of storage.
Okay.
We can also download it, right?
No, you
So our
cannot
local.
download it.
Gotcha.
You just have
Okay.
viewing access to that, but it will be available for 6 to 7 months.
Okay. So my last question is for the demo, because I haven't taken Java in a long time, but will I be able to get like the instruction how to download the playground for practice and all the kind of stuff on the demo from the previous recording?
I mean, previous recordings were foundational, so that was more of explaining and understanding what FHIR is all about, where it all started, what is the problem that it is solving. The first practical session has started only today. So creation of JSON object, sending it to FHIR is something that we have seen today only.
Okay. So what I'm saying is in terms of like for practice purposes, for lab purposes, what application should I download on my laptop? That's what I'm trying to ask.
Insomnia or Postman is enough. FHIR is
Okay.
anyways available online. It is a test server which you can use. So we should be good with these two for now. Either Insomnia or
Okay.
Postman.
Dixon,
All right.
I'm the one that introduced Tosin. Hey Tosin, I
Yeah.
can work with you on those. I think I
No
can
problem. Please, sir.
have you set it up.
Yeah. All right.
Hi, Dixon. Srinidhi here.
Hey, Srinidhi.
Dixon, like after the course,
Mhm.
any for the job, any referrals can be given or like anything that help will be there.
I mean, we don't promise putting you in a job, but if we come across any requirements and all, we will share that with all of the trainees. So if you need assistance with reviewing your resume once you create it, I can do that. Usually people send their resumes. I will suggest on what updates they can make. But with respect to promising a job is not something that we do.
Yeah, I understand that one, but yeah,
Yeah,
like regarding the reference and also
yeah.
as per the industry requirement, tailoring the resume that will be helpful.
Right. Yeah, that definitely we can do that. Not an issue.
Thank
Do
you.
you have like a template, resume template that we can follow?
There
To
are
edit?
multiple templates. That's on the SV Soft Training's website. We will share it. That will be shared by the end of the training so that you can prepare your resume based on any one of the templates.
Got it.
Okay, Prasad is asking the timings. I think Srinivas has posted. Sessions will be Monday to Friday. Timings will be 10 p.m. Eastern to 11 p.m. Eastern, which is 8:30 a.m. IST to 9:30 a.m. IST. Okay. Any other questions from anyone? All right. Thank you, everybody. You all have a good rest of your weekend. We'll catch up, as I mentioned, next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.